Hello everyone, I hope everybody had a good Independence Day. Sorry I'm late cranking out another one. This is my second attempt in trying to record this. I'm trying to keep them brief, but you know me, it never seems to happen. On screen you see something called Silhouette Studio. This is the business edition, and the reason why I'm doing a video on this is I'm actually not quite happy with how Silhouette Studio is working, so I'm going to kind of maybe show people what you can possibly do if you're not quite happy with how this works, but you can still use it with your hobby cutter. I really like the machine itself. The only caveat I have, or the only negative thing I have with it, is I think that the blades are not as good as they should be. Other people are using holders and Graphtec blades with it, which I may get to later, but right now for the ease of use, and especially with my wife learning how to use the machine, because I've learned Illustrator and a couple other programs, I find that even though this does have a lot of nice features, which I'll show here in just a second on some of them, I find it lacking. And if you're coming from a background like that where you're trying to make a really cool card, or you're trying to make a cool cutout decal, you're going to find real quick that this program here is not only kind of limited, but it's also very temperamental. So let's go ahead and get into it, and what I propose as a cheap kind of workaround to get around it. Alright, first of all, this is the business edition. We got this one because my wife is planning on maybe making a paid hobby, maybe going on up to a business. She does have a lot of cool ideas, and this machine does seem to be able to get some of them going. Plus, I do have experience with vinyl, so hopefully I can help her out making this work. And also, I got a couple of ideas of my own I'm trying to do, and this machine works pretty well. But again, this software here is temperamental. What I mean by that? Well, it has some neat features, like for example, if you change the line color of an object, you can supposedly cut by line color. But the first couple times I tried it, it did a double cut. When I complained to the company, and after they quit giving me a canned response and said, well, just double check this, I went back and I was actually live video recording it with my phone. Guess what? The thing worked. I was trying to show my wife the pattern fill function here, so she can maybe make some pretty cool print and cut things, or add a pattern to something to do a print and cut to maybe make it look a little better or whatever. And guess what? Again, it worked again. So it's pretty temperamental. But there are only some functions that can only occur inside this software. Now, are there ways around some of these things? Sure. But let's go over some of the things I really do like, I think are cool, some of the things I don't like, and one of the ways you can kind of get around it. Now, I will say, to do the workaround, the workaround I got, there's actually two of them. One of them is get at least the designer edition of the software. The reason why is because designer edition and up will allow you to import what's called an SVG file. And I'm sorry if I can't talk quite right, I'm having some issues with my dental work. SVG, Scalable Vector Graphics. And it will allow you to import those straight in from other programs. Now, if you go up to Business Edition, you can import in other formats like Corel Draw format and the like. Anyways, onward and forward. Thing I do like, well, it's very simple. Once you learn the software, sit down and learn the software a little bit, it's very simple. Some of the features are quite powerful for what it is. Some things are unexpected, like draw an arc tool. Well, you point from one to the other, and then you draw your arc, which is okay. But, you come back down here, you can grab this little handle here, and you can actually, I need to escape out of that and use my pointer tool here. Click on this. You can take this and kind of shrink the arc in and out, but it's only a point-to-point curved line. There is no pie shape. And I guess you could do a pie shape if you're very careful. You can put it there and then try to connect the dots, and then it will recognize it as a shape and everything else. But especially if you're starting out, you could do it that way, and that's fine, but it's tedious. And that's one thing I don't like. I don't like that you can have another way of doing it. The circle tool or the ellipse tool works as expected. You can hold down the modifier key, which is shift, and make it perfect. But again, there's no real way of changing this to a pie shape or an arc like this. I'm going to get rid of these because it's not needed. Okay, so you're kind of limited. I do like that, you do have node editing in here, but the node editing in this program is atrocious compared to other programs. If you've done any work with Illustrator, CorelDRAW, or even Inkscape, I'm here to tell you, you are in for a world of hurt with this program. Because even though you have this tool selected, you try to marquee select it, it automatically pops back to the pick tool, or the select tool as they call it. That's annoying. The only way around it is you got to hold down this, and then you got to hold down the shift key, and then I can select like 2 points. And even then, you just can't hit the delete key on the keyboard. See, when I did that, it deletes the whole shape. So I'm going to Control Z that. The only way you can delete these is to, if it has a right click, let's get here until that little pointer shows up. You can right click and say delete point, or choose it up here. That's it. And boy, I'm here to tell you what, if you've got to remove a lot of nodes and everything else, you're going to be wearing yourself out in this software. So that's another thing I don't like. The Polygon Tool. Well, I'm used to how other people do their Polygon tools. We'll just drag it out here. Okay, that's fine. That's cool. I can come in here and grab this thing and change it to a different side shape. That's cool. But look, I got 2 nodes here. You're thinking, okay, I can maybe make this into a star or some other shape. No. You grab that, resizes. Maybe it's this one. Grab it, resize it. And there's no options over here. So how do you draw a star in this program? Well, you can sit there and do shape, subtraction, and everything else, but you're going to wear yourself out. Okay? So to me, I'm not too thrilled about that either. Now, however, you just need a quick little shape to do something in. Hey, this program will knock it right out of the park. Text tools, they're kind of okay. The eraser tool, oh good lord. These get better as you get the program up supposedly, but if you have anything with any type of nodes in it and you try to erase something out, you better be having a Snickers bar and a cup of coffee, because it is going to take a while and may even crash this temperamental thing. Same thing with the knife tool right below it. Oh good lord, it is temperamental. However, it does allow you to do some things that are really, really neat. But again, it depends on how simple you're going with your program, with your cut or your whatever you're doing. Again, I find this program very temperamental. The things I do like about it, again, it's ease of use. Some of the things, sorry for the again, I do apologize, I'm not quite awake. The fill color is pretty nice. You can come up here and you can do advanced options here and even have a bar here. You can even do opacity. Now, word of warning, folks, this is just showing you on the screen. Unless you're going to do a print and cut, or you're designing to print out and then maybe trying to do a Pixmat cut or something like that, these are what you're going to be cutting out is going to be determined by the material that you put into the machine, such as vinyl, cardstock, chipboard, cork, whatever you're going to put in there. That's going to be whatever color you put in there. I use color to help differentiate and try to show my wife, who really hasn't had any design experience, what something's going to look like after it's gotten traced. And that's another thing I'll get into in just a second. The trace on this is pretty okay. It's not the best I've ever seen, but it's pretty okay. Again, you got gradients. You can do advanced options with your gradient. This is a little sucker here that gave me a big old huge butt ache. I put in a fill. I was trying to show that you can flip it, you can stretch it, you can do everything else, and then all of a sudden the fill disappeared. Boop! It was clear. Even though it showed that, it will show a box around a fill. I'll just go ahead and draw an object real quick, a rounded rectangle. And that's another thing, you can't really change this too much. Let me see if you can. Yeah, you can change one corner of it here. Or actually, you can change both corners. Alright, on this one it does something cool. Alright, we'll do the pick tool. Make sure this is selected. Okay. And we'll put in that fill. Okay. I kept flipping around with these options, which should not be a problem, scaling it and everything else, and then all of a sudden it just went clear. Boom! Even though I had the box on here that said, hey, you had your pattern selected. Didn't show it. My machine, by the way, is not the strongest machine on planet Earth, nor is it the weakest. I'm not planning on upgrading my machine because I'm trying desperately to get enough saved up, my little pennies saved up to get a Macintosh so I can get away from Windows because I'm not liking the direction that they're going. But that's a story for a different day. Alright, the other things I like about this, you do have some, like little drop shadows here you can do if you want to design that. That's pretty neat. This sketch option, let's go back here and turn this off here. Let's turn off our pattern. Okay. The sketch option is pretty neat because you can sit there and real quickly just click on it and it will look like, you can see by the thing here. Let's zoom in. I'm just holding down on Alt and using my scroll wheel. You can see that the program automatically makes these lines. Now be careful here. Okay, I've done some sketching with the machine with a pen holder you can buy separately for the machine, and I'm here to tell you what, anytime that there's a line here, this program has to calculate it, and it hates it. It freaking hates it. It took 5 minutes, I kid you not, for the last sketch I did. I'll try to post a picture of somewhere where you guys can see it. It took 5 minutes to calculate it, and it took over an hour to draw it. It was pretty complex, I have to admit. I mean, I probably pushed the program harder than it should, but wow, is all I have to say. But to do like a quick sketch shape like this, like for maybe a tag or something, that's pretty neat. You can do the inside sketching like this, all just clicking, which I find pretty neat, and you could do some pretty cool effects with that, and it will work on text and any other object that the program can see. Alright, moving along to the next thing I think is pretty neat. If you're into rhinestones, it does have a built-in rhinestone thing. You can say, okay, I want to do the edge. I want to do maybe 16S stones. And you could control your spacing and everything else, and which I will need to do here because it kind of looks like it kind of... Here we go, something like that maybe. And you can, and it will actually, wherever these red circles are, you put in your template material into there, and it will cut this pattern out exactly in this shape. And then you can turn around and then brush in your rhinestones. You use your transfer and get you some rhinestones going on. You can also do linear fill if that's what you want to try to do, is fill in the shape as you see it, put in all the dots. You could do a radial fill if that works out a little better for you. Or what you can do is you can come down here and you can draw rhinestones by clicking them, and if you need to, you can release them, which makes all these individual objects, and you can move around to your heart's content. Again, pretty neat kind of a feature that's available in the software. You got some basic effects here. These can be very useful if you're going to try to trace something. Very, very useful. I won't touch on those here, but those can be useful for helping a design if you don't want to pop out into GIMP or Photoshop Elements or Photoshop, whatever you're going into. The offset feature is pretty neat, but I will warn you that this little slider right here, a lot of people don't use it because it is touchy. It is very touchy. I'll show you. We'll do an offset. Okay, it's doing about 1/8 of an inch. If I grab that triangle and I try to move it, I mean, it is touchy. See? Very touchy. So what I normally do, sorry for the microphone slap, guys, is I'll go in here and I'll either type in the value that I want, or I'll dial it in using the little triangles here. You can do corners, or you can do round, depends on your shape, and you just click apply and makes the shape. I'm just going to cancel it for now. You can change your line colors, your line style, so you can make one look like stitching and all sorts of fun things like that. You can do some positioning, which is kind of nice. Fonts, I'm not crazy about how this works as much, but it is very, very, very simple, and that's what a lot of people need, is just simple. What I'm getting ready to get into is, like I said, more advanced. So anyways, we'll just quickly go through here. Here's move, but you can kind of do here. This is useful if you need to do an exact move, if you need to move it like 2 inches over, for example. Of course, you got rotation, scaling. Now I do use this to try to keep the patterns and everything scaled properly. Shearing or skewing, again, you could do that inside the program, but I use that. Now this one here I use quite a bit, the align panel. Now this is pretty neat here, the replicate. And there are some advanced options here, which we may get into maybe in later videos. Nesting is probably only one of the things you'll probably find in Design and Up. Not Designer, but Business Edition, I'm sorry. This will let you nest as many of these little pieces into one piece of material as you can, which will save on material. Now these are just like any other program. Weld, intersect, subtract. These do different things. We can maybe touch on them later, but they do a lot of the same things like CorelDRAW and Inkscape and Illustrator and some of the other programs do, as far as in combining and subtracting shapes. This is the trace feature. It does work okay. Excuse me, but it makes a lot of nodes. I have yet to find a trace feature that doesn't make a ton of nodes, and that's why node cleanup may be very important, because I touched on a couple of my other videos that the more nodes the program sees, especially with these little hobby cutters and even professional cutters, the more that blade has to make a change in direction, or the computer has to think about a change in direction. You reduce the amount of nodes, it's going to do a couple things. It's going to cut a little quicker, it's going to cut a little cleaner, and the third thing is it's not going to take up as much memory, both in the saved file and when you go to cut your file again, because the computer don't have to calculate all them points, simply put. And then some other features here, how big you want your page, registration marks, that's for like print and cut functionality. But anyway, I'm getting a little further off here. So what do I recommend for people who have a little bit better design experience, who's getting a little frustrated with this, trying to make basic shapes? Well, I suggest Inkscape. Why Inkscape? Well, Inkscape is free. It works okay. It's fairly stable on my system. It's a lot more stable than Studio is. Now, some of the functions you can kind of pass back and forth, and I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. Because you got Designer Edition on up, okay, you're going to be able to take something out of Inkscape, which saves natively as an SVG, by the way, import it straight into Silhouette Studio, and just take off and run. No problem. But simple shapes like this, okay, we'll do a star, for example. Like I was saying before, the star was a pain in the butt before. See, I got nodes here. I can control this star. Something I can't do in Silhouette Studio. Something like that, you'll have to take the point-to-point tool and try to click it. Right here, I just real quickly did this. If I want it rounded, I can change this while I still have the tool selected. Okay, I didn't want a star, I wanted a polygon. Okay, well, grab the Polygon Tool. This does only do this, but you can do rounded corners on a polygon, see? And it makes it more rounded. Put this back to 0. And you can even do how many corners you want here. You can come up here and go, 6, 7, 8, whatever you want. Sorry. So, you have a lot easier time editing in this thing. And let's go ahead and change this from this to a path, so we have nodes. Okay. The node tool here works a lot like Illustrator or CorelDRAW's node editing functions and things like that. You don't have to hold down a modifier key to select multiple nodes if you box them. See, I'm boxing these. Boom, they're selected. If I want to get rid of them, I can hit the delete key. It gets rid of them. It's not taking away the whole object from me. I find that a lot easier for me, personally. Now, if the other one works for you, great. But, for y'all, I've seen some of the YouTube videos where they're node editing inside that program. Oh, I need to grab me some migraine to deal with that. You also got tools that can modify a path here by using a brush. Like this one here. Okay, this attracts parts. So, again, I'm just kind of doing this, and see, look how easily I'm bending a shape just by using a brush. Try doing that inside of Silhouette Studio. You're going to be a little frustrated. But anyways, there are tools here and everything else. And the reason why I say I recommend this is because it's free. It saves an SVG. So this ain't going to really cost you anything if you went to Designer Edition. Now, let me make this little caveat here. If you're not going to use if you're not going to really use print and cut, if you're not really going to use the pick scan mat and everything else, and you don't want to spend any money on it because you get the free edition and say, hey, this is not really my cup of tea, there is an extension I am testing out. I haven't really done a lot yet. It's called Cut Wizard, and what it will do is it will let you cut whatever you design inside of Inkscape out on the cutter. The only thing is it does not do pick scan cut, and it does not do print and cut. But if I took like we'll go back here and pick on my star here. If I wanted to cut that star out, because that's what I wanted to do, once you get this extension, it works for I think 14 days on a trial, and then you have to pay for it. It will install as an extension. Now mine's not going to come up because mine is shut off, so I may have to turn mine on. We'll give this a second here to start up. Whoop. Maybe it's working, maybe not. Nope, it didn't like that too much. Yep, just let me know. There it goes. Alright, I am using a Cameo. You can choose what medium you want. Inkjet paper, cardstock, vinyl, plush vinyl. I mean, you could just choose what you want to do here. If you want to sketch it out with a sketch pen, there you go. You can do that right there. Chipboard, fabric. So, excuse me. So you can choose what you want here. It'll help set it up here. You got some options here for copying. You can do objects here. It'll tell you what to set your ratchet blade at. It'll tell you what tool you need. It'll do everything else here. So all you got to do, if I had material loaded in my machine and everything else, and I was ready to rock and roll, and that's where I wanted the start, you can reposition it on the material here. So like I want it right here because that's where my patch of vinyl is. We'll just say right there maybe. All I have to do is if I was ready to go, hit cut, and straight from Inkscape it will cut. I think last time I seen that this little plug-in here, I think is like $40 to $50 somewhere around there, because you got to convert euros to dollars because it is made by a company in Germany. But if the only thing you're doing is like cutting vinyl or cutting decals or something like that you design in here, and you're not worried about print and cut or doing the pick scan mat, this might be a cool little alternative to just run everything through Inkscape. Now this plugin supposedly will work with Illustrator and some versions of CorelDRAW, so it can be a better way to go. And just close that out. Alright folks, like I said, this is just a kind of a video to kind of let you know that, hey look, if you get a little limited in Silhouette back here, you can go ahead and use Inkscape, which is free, to help do more intricate designs and then bring them in to finish them up either here, cut them in here, or do what you need to do in here. Again, if you already have CorelDRAW, if you go up to the business edition of the software, then you can just take that file natively, come in, or again, if you just save it as SVG in CorelDRAW, and you can bring it in no problem. Alright folks, yeah, I know this is a little long, but hopefully this will help give a little bit of alternatives for people like me who get a little frustrated with something that's supposedly so simple and supposed to just work, quote unquote, to something that you're a little bit more familiar with, and then you can kind of use this to kind of translate it from your program out to the plotter. So until next time folks, hopefully I won't be taking so long to get one out. Have a good one, and I guess I'll see you next time.